Hello, and welcome to the We Get to Do This podcast. My name is Kaylee.
And I'm Jacob.
And we are your co-hosts.
In this show, we're going to dive into all things our lives, from our partnership to romance to entrepreneurship to growing our businesses together, our fitness journeys, and we're going to have a ton of different guests on that relate to what I just said in some way. We're hoping you enjoy the show, and if you do,
please feel free to follow us, leave us a 5-star review on wherever you listen to your podcasts, and enjoy.
And if you don't like the show, tough. Thank you.
Thanks.
We finally did it. This is take 13.
Oh, we haven't made it to the episode yet.
We've barely started any episodes.
You're right. Welcome back. Episode 6.
Welcome back, everyone.
We get to do this.
We've been having some technical difficulties, but we're finally here. And some health.
Yeah, health and technical difficulties, but
it's life.
Gosh dang it, we're going to get an episode out on time.
But anyways, now that we're actually here, I wanted to start off with a little celebration because, drum roll please, we have over 130 listens and downloads. We get to do this podcast.
Wow.
Actually, awesome. That's something to celebrate.
It is something to celebrate. I agree.
Yeah, so
130 people.
five episodes in.
Or it could be like our moms just listen to it.
130 times.
Well, no, they each listen to it, what is that, 70? 65 times?
Yeah.
They each listen to it 65 times.
Mom, if you're listening to this, drop a comment. That's you. Actually, I don't want to know. I want to assume it's different people. But if you are a super fan, thank you. We appreciate you. Still excited to be here. But today...
Well, what's the other announcement?
I forgot. What?
We changed our background.
Oh, yeah. Da-da-da-da!
Because, well, there are a lot of different reasons, but Zencastr, what did I call it? A disrespectful plug?
Yeah, displug.
A displug. An unplug. Shameless unplug on Zencastr, low-key. Their podcast software that we use is very much set up for one person. One person on camera. If you do interviews and whatnot, right, there would be a second person that would switch between the cameras, or it would stack them.
Be one face in the screen.
Yeah.
And either we're just very technologically incompetent and can't figure it out, but we've tried a lot of different things. I don't think that's it, but long story short, we had to change our positioning, and now you get to see our living room.
Yeah. I also don't think we've tried that hard either to really research it. I emailed the Zencastr people and they said we can't help you. There's nothing we can do about it, essentially. So yeah. But someday, Sidious May has 5 to 6 people and they do podcasts. And they make pretty sick content. Although they're making a lot of reels on Instagram, but
maybe that's why. We did get the professional version too, so we have a good one. So with that, that's our other announcement. You're stuck with us for at least a year because we paid for the annual subscription.
Drum roll, please.
Okay.
Or sad music. I don't know. Anyways,
buckle up.
We should move on.
We're in for a ride. Anyways, we'll get to the real topic of today, which is my handsome and wonderful partner,
wow,
Jacob Oak of Oak Endurance.
That's pretty cute, cringy of you.
Yeah, it is. But I've been excited to interview you. We're already 6 episodes in, and we haven't heard about you yet.
I think it's because people hear about me plenty.
Well, the podcast
I'm always
world.
talking about myself.
The podcast world needs to hear more about Jacob. So, with that, I'd love to hear a lot of things I want to hear from you. But first, where'd you grow up? Tell me about that.
Where I'm from.
Where are you from?
A little background there. So, from Minnesota, 45 minutes west of Minneapolis, small little town called Watertown.
The burbs.
Not the burbs. It's like rural. Farm town, Hickville.
Farther
I
than
don't know if you could
burbs.
say Hick. It might be
Yeah, don't say that.
a slang, right? Is that bad?
I don't know.
Okay,
From
anyways.
far out.
If I offended anyone, I apologize. Yeah, so far out, small town. I think there's like 4,000 people total in the town.
How many did you graduate with?
97 were in my graduating class, and we were sandwiched between a lot bigger schools. We were like if you went 5 minutes further west, it was more schools our size, and then 5 minutes further east, it would be, or like any other direction really, it would be class size of 200 or bigger, right? So we were kind of right on that outskirt town area, but.
Did you like being in a small town, like graduate with that many people?
I don't know. I've never been asked that. I think at the time I really, really liked it. I think there are, wow. Yeah, I don't know, actually. Now I'm thinking about it. I think there were good and bad parts about it. I would never raise kids in a town the size that I was in. I think that on the one hand, there was a benefit to people knowing me, but I didn't like how everyone knew me. That's how everyone in that town was. So whoever you were, everyone knew. And it was very hard to change anything about yourself because from, kind of a somewhat early age, your path is kind of somewhat defined, I guess, when everyone knows, when you're in a town that small and your class you grow up with from kindergarten and you know everyone on a first name basis from kindergarten. But also there's positives to that too, right? So I think it's just kind of what you want and what you want to make out of that situation.
It's kind of interesting because now I feel like you really like being known.
Well, I've always liked being known. Yeah, I've always liked being known. I always wanted attention, for sure. But, I mean, high school in particular, I think high school in particular is just a touchy subject for everyone, right? Like, there are aspects of it I would love to relive, for sure, and there are aspects of it I would not want to relive either. And high school, for me, high school actually kind of kicked ass, for the most part. It was more like middle school I really did have a good time in, and parts of elementary school, I would say. But after really, high school sucked for the most part. I don't know. There were parts that were awesome. I was diagnosed with IBS in high school, which now I know is not really a thing, but it's anxiety.
What do you mean by that?
Yeah, sorry. IBS is a thing, but what I meant by that is, for me, my triggers were stress and anxiety. So it was more stress and anxiety that I was dealing with. And once I got those under control, all my stomach problems, literally went away completely. Never have any issues with my stomach unless I'm anxious or stressed. So I think IBS is more of a blanket term for things when doctors aren't able to, put us other label. That's a whole different topic. But I was diagnosed with IBS, and I really struggled in high school with stomach issues, essentially. I had an eating disorder in high school. I really struggled finding my right group to be a part of. And I've always had this issue, and we talked about this the other day actually, with trying to fit in with everyone and trying to be friends with everyone. And I was like that in high school too. And you always run into issues with that. Maybe someday I'll learn my lesson that not everyone can like you, and if you try to have everyone like you, you'll end up with a lot weaker connections potentially, as well as people really disliking you eventually. So,
yeah.
But at the same time, there were parts of high school I really liked. I found cross country and track and running as a freshman, and I found it for a lot of unhealthy reasons that depth on other podcasts and whatnot. But I fell in love with that sport in high school, and whether or not it was for good reasons, like I said, I still fell in love with it. And I really fell in love with that specific group of people. And if there's one thing in high school I would love to relive, it's probably that specific section.
Track and cross country.
More so cross country. Track, you still had some of track's just, we were at a small school, but it's still bigger, right? And you get people from other sport teams. It's not like cross country, we are all runners, right? So in track, you get people that use track as a supplement to their other sports, right? Which is dope. But in cross country, your sport is running, right? And so I feel cross country was more of the true running community that I really vibe with now today. And yeah, I miss bus rides, I miss meets, I miss that specific community a good amount.
Love the bus rides.
Yeah. And, looking back on high school specifically, any issues I ever had with, like I said, I got bullied more in middle school, in elementary school, but I don't know, there's just no judgment ever in cross country. And that's part of the reason I fell in love with running. There's just no judgment, right? People didn't care who you were, what you looked like, or anything like that. It was everyone outside of that. Wow, welcome to We Get to Do This. Episode 6.
I also seem to remember that you were a theater kid.
I was. That's an interesting thing, too. And I think that is also up there as, it's a close second to cross country as something I really, really loved. I don't miss that, though. I was in theater since I was 10, 9. We did summer youth theater growing up, and then we did I did theater in middle school, and then I also helped with the lights and the tech side of things for a few years, and then went back into more theater. And we had the fall musical and the spring play. The theater director that was there I think she got there my sophomore year, maybe my freshman year. I loved her. She was one of my favorite parts of high school. Joyce. If she might be listening to this, but she fucking kicked ass. She was amazing. And my senior year specifically, I looked forward to seeing her because, not that I did in the other years, but I interned under her my senior year and just spent more time with her. So maybe I did my junior year too. I don't remember for sure. But those specific time chunks when I was interning under her, they were amazing. But theater overall, honestly, I think theater just taught me to be social. It gave me communication skills. It gave me the ability to public speak, things like that. Even in interviews, it gave me acting skills that when I feel not confident, I feel as though I can sometimes put on a confident show. And I think that's from theater. I don't think that's from, it's not always confidence, but I know how to act confident. And I think a lot of that comes from theater. And I will say too, I think theater and cross country, those are two big groups in high school that stick out a lot. And they're definitely the groups that get picked on and just typically have a harder time. And again, I like to be friends with everyone, right? So growing up, I was more in that, I would say, jock, friend group for a lot of it. And in high school, I had a lot of friends that were, football players, basketball players, baseball players that I hung out with a lot. But early on in high school, I really liked being able to do that and then also be a part of those other communities. And I think that taught me how to talk to everyone specifically. And I got that from theater and cross country. But also it was a small school, and by the time I was a senior, there were a lot of other people from my, I don't love the word jock, but that friend group that ended up joining theater and choir and different stuff like that. So there was a lot of, I don't know, but my senior year, I feel like my high school, there was a lot of people doing everything.
That's cool.
You know, which I thought was, unique and cool as well. And realistically, it was like that probably the whole time, but I didn't realize it until I was, senior, I guess.
And then, so after high school, going to this small school, then you went to the U, which must have been like complete shock, like going from small water town to like the biggest school in the state. Like, no?
No, it wasn't. I fucking loved the U. I also found a community and a jive. That's the right word. I don't know, things just kind of flowed well at the U for the most part. I was between, there were 5 schools I was between. And I almost went to St. Thomas, which was a St. Paul school. And I almost went there specifically because I had my best friend, like a really good friend at the time, he was going to St. Thomas, and like I wanted to follow him, essentially. That was a huge thing. And I had some other friends that were there as well. And so I went and toured, and I actually met with the track coach, thought about doing track there. I was pretty set on going there. And then they didn't have a nutrition program, and that was what I was originally going to go to school for. And 2, my older brother was at the U of M, and he had a friend that was very, very extroverted, super cool guy at the U with him. And I think it was at Thanksgiving of my senior year of high school. He came home with my older brother for Thanksgiving because he lived in Texas and didn't want to go home. So, or couldn't fly out, whatever it was. And I told him I was going to go to St. Thomas. And he said, what about the U? You thought about the U, whatever. And he said, just come. He said, you have, I don't remember why, but I had one of those applications at the U where like all I had to do was like sign my name on a piece of paper, and I applied. It was super easy. I didn't have to write any essays. I don't remember what that was called, but it took like 5 minutes. And he said, just do that. Just to apply, so you don't regret not applying at all. Just see what happens. He said, we have a nutrition program. I'm in CFANS. I'm not in nutrition, but I'm in that college. I love it. Just apply, see. St. Thomas doesn't even have a nutrition program. And then come hang out with us in December or whatever. So I applied. I went and hung out with him in December one weekend and had a blast that weekend. It was amazing. And ended up getting in. And I don't remember exactly all the things that went down, but for whatever reason, when I got the U of M letter, I was immediately just, I'm in, let's do it. Decided to go there. I don't fully remember why. I think it was just that weekend I loved it, and then from there, I decided if I get it, I'm going to go. And so, I went and got in, and then I was lucky enough to have a few friends that were there when I got there that were older. I had my brother, and then also with my freshman class, my neighbors were 2 friends that I'm really good friends with still to this day, who went to a neighboring high school of mine that also lived right next door. And then I had a high school friend as well that lived on the floor above us in that same dorm. And it was all random. And there's like 6 dorms at the U and 5,000 per class or whatever it is. Maybe more, 10,000, whatever it is. And so that was pretty random and lucky, and that worked out good. I also knew I wanted to branch out, and luckily I met my next across the hall neighbors during Welcome Week, and I'm really, really good friends with them to this day. And some other people in that dorm I stayed really good friends with, and to this day too. And I think that it was great. I think in college I stayed away from theater because I was never actually good at theater. Like I wasn't good at singing, and that was a big part of it. So I didn't ever do anything with theater, and originally went for nutrition, and then decided I didn't want to be an RD. So, long story short, I ended up majoring in business and learning sales and human resource development, the psychology of the way we think and develop humans, which when I made the switch later in life to be a trainer and coach, I thought, dang, I wish I would have majored in kinesiology or nutrition after all, but the business stuff actually has helped out a ton, turns out. And yeah, did squash club in college, wanted to do the run club a couple times, but never actually committed. I don't know why, but I ran a lot in college, and then I drank a lot of drinking in college. I definitely had the typical public Big Ten school experience, for sure.
But you don't seem to like regret or anything, because I think it's cool. Like, I don't know, just even like talking about like who you got put in like by your dorm and stuff. Like, I think I'm a big believer in creating our own destiny and stuff. I think sometimes there are certain things that are just like up to fate, and like if you had been put in with different people, your whole college situation could have been completely different. You know?
Oh yeah.
I mean, career, like major wise, just so many things. So
yeah, and I was lucky because fitness has always been huge for me, and most of that college group, actually most, like all of them, were also into fitness, but most of them were also into running at that time too. So we get like, I had a buddy who we ran my first marathon with, and then my senior year, like 5 of us ran a marathon together, and then Peyton ran a marathon, like her junior year. So like a bunch of us ran marathons in college. So that was cool. And that was all part of our lives then. So I had that, and I had a bunch of people join squash with me. And so I was lucky to have an active group as well. I always thought it was unique because we definitely were party animals. I don't know. I mean, like we drank a lot, but we also worked very hard. And I was very much not the smartest in the group of friends I was with in college. Engineers, lawyers, therapists, physical therapists, doctors. That's like the friend group I was a part of. And I majored in marketing and human resource development, business stuff, just very different than like the math and STEM fields. And so, I don't know, I looked up to all of them and worked very hard all the time to try to keep up with them, for sure.
do you still feel like that?
Like what?
Like you're trying to keep up? Just in general, like career-wise and stuff, like do you feel like that played any part into, I mean, right now, you're a very hard worker. You have your own business, which I want to hear more about and stuff too, but like, do you think that those experiences or like comparing yourself to like other people or anything like had any impact to where you are today?
I think there's a lot of things that make me work hard. I think wanting to keep up with others may have been a part of it at some point. But also growing up and seeing the way like my parents were was a big part of it that I'm sure we could get very in depth with. Seeing my younger brother go from having 2 older brothers that were 21-minute 5K and 19-minute 5K runners, and seeing him start running in 7th grade and becoming a 15-minute 5K runner, that was a big part of where my hard work comes from. Yeah, I think a lot of it's just, who you're circled with or who's in your circle is what it comes down to. But I don't think I'm trying to keep up. I think I did enough of that.
Because then post-college, where did you go after that, after you graduated?
So post-college, I moved home for a year, and that was the hardest I've ever worked that year. And probably, so I'm a believer in regrets. I think a lot of people aren't. I am. And that is the year I probably have the most regrets. That was one of the harder years of my life for sure. I think that kickstarted a very hard period in Jacob's life. But when I moved home after college, it was also COVID. There was just a lot of different shit going on for everyone, right? Everyone developed COVID traumas, you know. But during that period, because of COVID and different things, I was working virtually full time. I started my business, was working, doing that. And I was working out pretty much twice a day, 2 hours every day, pretty frequently. I did like the 75-hour challenge that year. And then on the weekends, I worked at a friend's dad's cabinet shop. So there was a stretch of time when, you know, and what do you consider hard work, right? Because if it's like the amount you're working, that was the hardest I've ever worked. It was every day I got up at about 4 or 5, depending on the day. I read, I ran, I worked in my business. At 8 o'clock, I clocked in. And now my 8 to 5 was pretty easy. So I had time during that to sometimes hit my second workout or do other work. And then at night, I would do usually a workout or do more work. And then I started having virtual check-ins with people and things like that too. So, and then that was Monday through Friday. Saturday, I usually would work from about 9 to 6 or 9 to 5, or sorry, 9 to 3 or 9 to 5, depending on the day. And then I'll work a lot of Sundays and at the cabinet shop. And then I typically only work Sundays until like noon and then go hang out with my dad until like 6 or 7. And Sundays or Saturdays were long run days too. You know, I was running a lot then too. That was nonstop for like a year, but paid off like all my loans, started a business.
So you started your business right after school?
I started my business, I graduated in May, and I started my business that January. So not right after school.
Were you planning, like, did you know you were going to do that when you were in school? Was that in the plan?
I'm trying to get better on podcasts and not giving 5-minute answers. No, it wasn't in the plan. I had a podcast with my brothers, and I knew I wanted to start doing more in the fitness realm. Probably starting my sophomore, junior year, I knew I wanted to do something in the fitness realm, but on the business side. That was my kind of objective at the time in college. I did not have plans to start a business. No, that just kind of happened.
So you started your business January after you graduated, and then you continued like working marketing.
Marketing, yeah.
When did that then turn into fitness?
Like when did I change? So I worked at that marketing job, and it was for a company that worked on the software side of basically delivering food programs to people who couldn't afford access to healthy food, like organic foods. And I worked with that company, and there was a lot of different politics stuff, and that was my first company I worked for that I knew I was more into the entrepreneurial lifestyle because I want control. Point blank. Very bluntly. I don't say that in like, I want control, you know, but it's just something that I want control of my life. And that's, to me, being an entrepreneur gives me control, even though you end up working. Anyways, so I did that until January. And like I said, things just kind of started happening where people were asking me to like run coach them. They were asking for personal training advice. I knew I was starting to get interested in that field more. I met Todd then as well, like that November after school, which is crazy. I met him not long ago. He went out with lunch. I went out to lunch with him, and he told me about like what he did, and he looked very successful, and he still looks very successful. And I remember thinking, well, he's successful in doing kind of what I want to do. Maybe I should, do more of that. And he actually invited me to some conferences as well before I started my business. So I saw some stuff that he was doing in the health field. That's where I got exposed to the applied kinesiology stuff. And then I went and shadowed him. And that was all of that happened. All those different things momentum to get me to go, oh, okay, I want to do this. And then I started Oak Wellness with the idea of basically creating a company that had everything you needed in the wellness space. That morphed and changed over time, obviously, and also maybe we'll come back. I don't know. But then in March of that year, basically the company I was working for, I had just gotten kind of fed up with for a bunch of different reasons and started applying for other jobs in marketing again. And I was looking for specifically 20-hour per week jobs because I was living at home. I'd saved up a lot of money. I was very into like Betterment at this point, Goggins and just Jocko and different people like him, and listening to how to better yourself and whatnot. And so I thought, well, if I get a job that pays me, whatever, for 20 hours a week, and I lived at home for another year, maybe I could try to grow my business. Now, I think things happen for a reason. Had that happened, I think it would have failed. I don't think I would have been able to. I did not have any connections. And I didn't get any marketing jobs. Right? So then I was like, okay. So then I started thinking, how can I get into that industry, get a paycheck within the fitness industry, and grow my company on the outside of it, right? So I started looking at different fitness companies. And that led me to Run Stores, right? And that led me to specifically Gear West. And I tried to get a job there. They didn't want me. It didn't happen, whatever. And I was like, shit, okay. I can't even get a job, like selling shoes. Not that that's not impressive by any means, but there's a lot of high school kids that sell shoes, right? So I couldn't even get a job doing that, like on weekends selling shoes. And I don't know, I feel like I'm a pretty good learner. I feel like I could have at the time learned how to do that. So that didn't happen. And then I just, again, now it's May. So 2 months and I've got no leads. And I decided to look up more run specific stores on Performance Run Gym. Emailed the owner of PRG, Aaron, and said, hey, here's my deal. I'm very eager to get in this industry. I have no experience personal training. Not a single drop. I've shadowed people. I do virtual training and I do run coaching. Never have done personal training. Right place, right time, right? I don't think I've told this story to a lot of people or recorded it. Right place, right time. PRG was in a position basically where they really needed another trainer or a run coach. And they had a good, fairly big team, but there were a lot of merger things happening. PRG is just sold, blah, blah, blah. And I just literally hit a 2-week window that they needed a trainer and a run specific one specifically, which even 3 years ago, that was less frequent. They're still, you don't find that a lot now still, but it's growing, right? And not that I was the first to train runners, because people have been training runners for a long time, but I think I was one of the first, at least in Minnesota, to say I'm specifically working with runners. And got a job there. And Alex Hermosi, in his book, I forget what it's called, it's how to generate leads. He uses an example of, you can have the worst tasting hot dogs and go stand outside of a stadium at 2 a.m. in the morning or outside of a bar at 2 a.m. in the morning when a bunch of drunk people are walking by. You can have the worst tasting hot dogs and be the only one selling hot dogs and make a fuck ton of money. Now I didn't make a lot of money, but
that's to come.
I was the only runner in this run gym doing training and coaching at the time. There were other trainers there, and Aaron was a coach and trainer as well, but he was focusing on the business. Right? So I was the only specific one, and I just had a lot of success. And I recognized that early and capitalized on that. And in addition to that, I was at the lowest point in my life, pretty much 3 months into getting hired at PRG. So I really needed a community. I just lived at PRG. So I did. Lived there. I met everyone. I got on a first name basis with everyone there. I selfishly was promoting run groups and stuff because I wanted people to run with. And then a lot of them ended up being clients. I was looking for a community. It was a lot of just right place, right time. And I flourished there. And I'm very grateful for my time there. When I was first started there versus where I'm at now, I'm a completely different person. So there's your long-winded answer to how I got into the fitness, how I made the jump and whatnot. And I think I answered it.
Yeah, thank you. Did we talk about our businesses yet? Have we talked about Oak? So I want to hear then. So you were working. You had your own business that you were starting years ago, and then you were working as an employee. So then, how did all of that progress to what now is known as Oak Endurance, where you are currently a full-time, self-employed even?
So, when I started working at PRG, I had Oak Wellness. And my intention, I remember during my interview, Aaron asked me, where do you want to be in 5 years? And I said, I want to be working for myself with my company, Oak Wellness. And I said, I think at the time I actually said, be doing what you're doing or something along those lines. I was pretty open with him in the interview. I think I would assume he liked that. I don't even know if he remembers that. That's how I remember. I don't know. But I would assume he liked that if someone told me that, right, in an interview. But what ended up happening was I started liking what I was doing at PRG more than what I liked doing with my own business because it was all wellness. So I had a lot of weight loss clients and general health clients, and I had moms. I don't know, just like everything basically, elderly, and I had a couple runners, and I just found that the endurance athletes were just people I jived with more. Like I just liked working with those people more, and so I got my business to a point where at the time I was making $1,000 a month, and I was like, holy shit, that's crazy. When I first started, I was making $50 a month, right? And so when I got to 1,000, I was like, what? This is insane. And I wasn't taking any money from the business either because I was working PRG. So that was my paycheck, and so it was also right back into Oak, just in the savings account. And ended up deciding I was going to focus on PRG more. I actually liked it a lot more. And so I had lost a lot of clients and kind of stopped doing the wellness stuff. And the Oak Wellness thing went to the back burner. And then got really involved more at PRG, grew my clients at PRG and loved it. And there were a lot of different things that happened, but I ended up, ultimately, again, I'm an entrepreneur at heart. Really is what it boils down to. And I think that, I don't think I would change it because I think it's what makes me successful, right? But at the same time, because of it, I think I struggle to be in the moment with things, specifically companies, because I've had some good jobs. Like I had a weather marketing job for a weather company in college that gave us a $300 per year exercise fitness reimbursement thing to interns, and they paid me at the time. I think it was $22 an hour for an intern in college. I think marketing is pretty freaking good, and it was great. Everyone was super nice, just great work-life balance. I could have spent my whole life there and probably made great money. And I've had jobs I've liked, right? But PRG is one of them. And ultimately I decided that I wanted to just see what I could do and grow. And there were things that I wanted to do that PRG, like services PRG didn't offer yet. And I wanted to try to do it my own. I don't know. There's just a lot of different things. So I decided to do a DBA as Oak Endurance and target endurance athletes. And I had a vision as well to create an app and just do different things and create kind of a brand. Almost like that's that business and marketing mind that come into play, right? And I wanted to do more than training and coaching. I wanted to be what I did at the time, but a community. I wanted to build almost like what Nick Bear has done and just different things like that. That's what's been driving me. So I was like, I'm gonna do DBA's Oak Endurance. I'm gonna grow this name. And so I did that. And that was probably about a year ago now. No, 2 years ago now? Because I did it before I met you. That was probably like 2 years ago now that I started that. And so I started working on that and worked at PRG at the same time. And 2 or 3 months ago, we decided that it was time for me to do Oak Endurance full time. It had gotten to a point where it needed my full attention. And that's where I'm at now.
Proud of you.
Thank you.
So now coming to September of 2024, just curious, what does a day in the life of Jacob look like?
A lot more stress. I have gray hairs now.
You do have gray hairs.
It's ridiculous. Yeah, a lot more stress. A lot more stress. It's very, very scary every day. And you hear this and you read this. Any entrepreneur. I'm lucky because right now, like month to month, if you look at the past 5 months, they all look pretty good on paper, right? It's the next 5 months, right? And it's just knowing that it could change in a second. And you have to continue hustling all the time. You just can't break. Really. There's just too much riding on you. And I don't even have employees or kids or anything, right? It's just on myself, but I'm still extremely scared all the time, right? And I think that that's something a lot of entrepreneurs aren't willing to admit, but I'm willing to admit that. I'm pretty scared. But so you wear every hat in your business, so I'm personal training, I'm run coaching, the clients I do have. I have right now run coaching, I have 14 run coaching clients that I've been lucky enough to acquire, build up over the past 14 years 14 years, 2 years that have, trusted me and believed in my mission as a coach and what we're building together, right? And
how many do you want?
I say 20, but like what happens when you get to 20?
When do you want 20 by?
Maybe January. Cool.
Okay.
For sure a year from now. And then I've got 10 to 14 training hours per week. And some of those people are also run coaching clients and some of them aren't. That is personal training. And then of that, there's 2 group classes per week too. So in addition to that, every morning, every night, we're always thinking business. We're always talking business. I think that'd be a fun episode too, because I think that's something we struggle with is like separating our relationship from our businesses. And, working on emails, working on making sure every single client is extremely happy. And I'm passionate about that. Don't get me wrong. But again, I want every client I work with to be very, very happy. Right? I'm a very big believer right now in spending less time focusing on where my next client is coming from and spending more of my time focusing on making sure my current existing clients are at the time of their life. That's like my focus. And then 10 to 20% of my week is on getting new clients through marketing and stuff.
Do you do anything that's not business related? Work related?
Well, I run and work out a lot, but like I said last night, I count that as working because I think that mentally I need it, but also that's part of episode 2. I count it as working. I count that as working. Outside of work, no, I really don't. I hang out with friends that, like from college and stuff, probably not as much as I should, realistically. I've lost a lot of friends because of that. I mean, other things too, but I think part of that is just me not being present in a relationship. And again, everything's 50-50, but, I can take ownership. And, I try to see my family a lot. Like, that's the thing that comes after business for both of us. It's like, let's try to see our family as much as possible. But, I mean, it's pretty rare that we have a date night. I think that's probably also something that we try to do more of. We hang out a lot, but it's very business related a lot.
I feel like our hours are also like pretty sporadic. Instead of having a 9 to 5, you can work 6 to 12 and then have a few hours off, and then we still won't get home until 8 p.m. from group classes or something.
Right. And then we're recording a podcast at 8 p.m.
And then we're doing podcasts.
So, yeah, and that's the type of stuff I think that'll be cool to see us develop, because we're aware of these things, right? And
very
it's
aware.
A drug, and we both have trauma that we're covering up and working through, for sure, too. I have trauma I'm covering up and working through. I'll let you make your own statements, I guess. But, outside of that, I listen to a lot of music. I love podcasts. I love reading. I love concerts. I like being outside. And I love binge watching shows. Every night we watch an episode of something. Right now it's Better Call Saul. So
Season 4.
Yeah.
Is there something that you think people don't know about you, or something that you like really want people to know about Jacob? Like the biggest thing that stands out to you that you want to be known by?
Wow.
For
Can
the
I ask
people.
you that question first?
No, this is your interview.
But I didn't ask you that. I feel like you did a way better job interviewing me. We need to redo yours.
It's my interview. I mean, your interview, but I'm the interviewee.
You're also very good at asking questions. You're a lot better at asking questions than I am. I need to get better at that. For sure.
Back to my question.
Those are called
Stalling.
Those are called delay tactics.
Can I tell?
I love you.
I love you.
I don't know if it's like me in particular. I think it's a lot. I think this could go for anyone. And I think we hear this a lot. But I'm not saying this because I want people to be nicer to me or kind to me. I just think that in general, people do. Everyone can use this. But I think everyone is fighting battles. Let's stick with like that line. Everyone's fighting battles that they hide. And I think there's a lot of people that look at you and I and go, must be nice. They travel all the time. They have an awesome relationship. They have jobs they love. Looks so fun. They do their hobby every day, et cetera, et cetera. And yeah, that's true. But I think that there's a lot that I still struggle with. I think it's everyone. There's a lot of trauma that, again, everyone has. But I just don't think anyone has it easy.
Well, and again, I'm a big believer in we create our own reality. And yes, we've been given a lot of privileges in life. Like, there's no doubt about that. And I think we acknowledge that every day. And not something we take for granted, but also, like you said, there's traumas, there's things that people have said, like past experiences. And I think it comes down to, at least for me, is just being kind to people, no matter the situation. If you think somebody has it better off than you, worse off than you, it doesn't really matter. As you said, you never really know what's going on. And I think that goes for everyone.
Yeah. And I was listening to a podcast. Andrew Huberman was on the Diary of a CEO. And he talked about how he specifically has problems letting things go. And I think the spiel he gave about that for like 3 minutes, I've never really did anything more. And I'm a guy that asks for feedback, right? And I'm an entrepreneur. And part of that is you're going to get a lot of criticism and no. That's just how this works. But I dwell on it a lot. And obviously there's way bigger things I dwell on. But I think that's the other thing too. It's just, again, that's probably everyone. You know, we really dwell. A lot of people probably, I don't know, maybe not everyone. But I think, again, just you hear what you say to people.
Yeah. Well, and I think especially like as entrepreneurs, like you were saying, when you're carrying all of the hats, I think you just take things that much more personally because you are the only person. So if somebody's, not returning as a client, or if I'm not having a return patient, it feels like, at least for me, it feels like it's on you.
Right.
Instead of being under the umbrella of a business. And I think that's what we dwell on.
Oh, yeah.
And it's very hard. And I want to talk about this in another podcast because I've been struggling a lot with imposter syndrome and a lot of things. We might talk about this on our next one. But that's very hard. And again, I think it's just, even if it seems like they're super successful and doing well, be kind. You never know.
I agree. Thanks for interviewing me.
Thanks for sharing.
We get to do this. Episode 6.
All about Jacob Oak.
I'm Jacob.
And I'm Kaylee.
We gotta get an outro going. Peace.